Hello, so in today's video we're going to look at various types of EO-14 filters or filters like EO-14 filters. So the EO-14 was kind of this Soviet bloc filter that was used for quite a long time by infantry, and there was a slightly shorter version of it as far as I'm aware. These were kind of the filters for the most part. I think most of these nations used before the sort of coffee can filters were the standard type ones. So these are very similar to the old sort of World War One and World War Two sort of box respirator, I guess you'd call them, box filters. If you think of the English box respirator or corrected box respirator, they normally had filters like this. The Mark 1 and Mark 4, Mark 5 gas masks GSR Britain used had sort of orange filters very similar to this. So these were quite, like common and popular filter designs. So it was later on the Soviet Union that they actually went to the more coffee can type design. So Beastoree very kindly sent me these when he sent me a load of other stuff recently. And all three of these filters are actually different, although they look similar. So let's go over it. So this one, the one in the middle, as far as I'm aware, is the standard EO-14. That's got like a funky sort of pattern on it. But as I said, the EO-14 seems to be like the Soviet bloc standard one that Poland and a lot of other nations used. The one on the left is actually the old Polish one, apparently. So this one is called an MO-2397IX 5655. So I imagine 56 might be 1956. But yeah, it's definitely not your standard EO-14. If you look at the bottom of it, you'll be able to see that it's got a different kind of plug than the EO-14s have. It's got, that's actually quite different. So let's get the plug open. And another interesting thing of this filter is that it has like a ribbed design as it goes up. I don't know how obvious that will be on camera. I think you can see it there. Regular EO-14s don't look like that. So it looks like this filter essentially goes up a long tube till it gets to the particulate sort of thing, and then I guess the charcoal's in here. I know some of these filters might actually kind of go up the sides, I think, and then they go into a charcoal kind of reservoir at the top. I'll get the top cap open on this one as well. And you can see there's some hairy stuff in there, and I'm pretty sure that's cotton wool, but I'll be able to test that in a moment. Basically what I'll do is, with all the filters that look like they've got cotton wool in the top, I'm going to pull it out because I wouldn't want them in there anyway. And then I'm going to try and set on fire. If it sets on fire and burns properly, it's cotton wool. If it doesn't, it's asbestos, but I'm pretty certain this is cotton wool. Generally asbestos, when it was used, was lower down in the particulate filters section. So that cotton wool was probably there to block in any charcoal dust that might have come out of the bit underneath it. But again, we'll have a look at that a bit closer in a minute. So let me pop the cap back on this filter. So this one has the sort of proper rubber sort of seal at the bottom, and you can see there that this one actually kind of has a grate, and then it has a particulate filter there. So that particulate filter that you can see there, kind of the heaper design, if this has asbestos in, that will be where it is basically. It's woven into the other materials. Again, if the filters are working properly, these aren't actually risky to breathe through. Personally though, as I've said a lot of times before, don't really risk using these old filters. Even if something like this didn't have asbestos in, even if the charcoal dust leaks, that's not good for you. If you want to get, FP5 filters or something similar, Beastoree sells them, and I'd obviously recommend using those over these. If you put on briefly and used it for a brief period, they're probably perfectly safe, but like a lot of these filters, I wouldn't really recommend you actually wear them. Even with modern filters, I'd say to an extent, I wouldn't really recommend wearing them unless you had to use them. I mean, I use them a lot because I do stuff with them in videos, but breathing through filters for the sake of breathing through filters isn't really a good thing. So there you go, there's the inside of this one. As you can see, that's got your kind of, it looks like a cotton layer underneath the metal grate, and then that will be where all the charcoal is. So these filters might be perfectly safe. I really don't know. As said, I would personally err on the side of caution and use more modern filters, but in theory, if that particle layer at the top is in good condition, nothing should be able to get out of the filter. But, you know, just a warning, lots of filters of this period did use asbestos. It's the actual coffee can filters we know for certain used asbestos. These ones, I'd kind of suspect it, but, you know, don't know. Now this is an East German one. So they called it the EO-14 and then a triangle, but it also says EO-24IX at the bottom. So this one I guess is 1962 maybe? Do all of these have a date on the other side? That one I guess is 1986. I think he was saying to me in his letter that modern Polish army, only up until recently, was still using these, so these ones are probably actually quite good filters if they were made, you know, fairly late. This one I can't see a date on other than maybe the 56, but anyway, so this is an East German one from the 60s, I guess before they went to the coffee can filters. So let's get that off the bottom. It's quite hard to get this one off. There we go. And that's actually got a different bottom on this one. It's like a flat panel, so you can see there's a particulate bit underneath if you turn it at an angle. But yeah, that's a flat bottom rather than the grill, but it looks otherwise to be the same kind of particulate design as the other filters used. And again, this one's got cotton wool in the top. I guess, I don't know how I'll be able to see that on the camera. Maybe not very well at all, but there is some cotton wool in the top there. So, the same logic applies. What I will be doing is now we'll take these two filters outside. I've just put here, and what I'll be doing with these two is taking the cotton wool out with some tweezers, putting a light to them, and seeing if they actually ignite. If they ignite and burn fine, that cotton wool at the top is definitely cotton wool, not asbestos. If it leaves some sort of weird residue, it's asbestos. But again, this is one of those don't try this at home kind of things. I'm just quite curious myself. As I've said to people before, if you're going to cut up old Soviet filters and things like that, I'm not going to cut these up. Be very careful, because you could actually expose yourself to some of the quite nasty stuff in the filters if you actually decide to saw open filters like this, you know, and look at the inside. So make sure you're using a P3 particulate mask, doing it in an area you can clean out of asbestos. Don't do it in your living room or something like that. Right, let's have a look. Okay, first up, the cotton wool from the old Polish filter. Let's see if it burns or not. I'd be pretty certain that is cotton wool by the look of that. Just do a little bit more flame onto it. Well, that's pretty singed. I'd have thought if that was asbestos, that would have, you know, been quite fire resistant, because asbestos was used because it was fire retardant. And that's smouldering away just fine, as you can probably see down there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure, certain that in that old Polish filter that is indeed cotton wool at the top. That's not to say that there might not be asbestos somewhere else in the filter, but the stuff at the top I'm pretty certain is cotton wool because it's burned up. But as I said, I wouldn't want to be inhaling weird bits of old cotton wool anyway, so I'll make sure I pick all that out of the filter before I use it. But as far as I'm aware, that is actually cotton wool. And there's some of the cotton wool type stuff from the East German filter, so let's give that a bit of flame and see what happens. It seems to be burning again fairly easily. Yep, not much left, bit of residue. Yeah, that's definitely cotton wool in there, because it just burned up so easily. But yeah, I would guess that both the cotton layers on top of those filters were actually cotton wool, not asbestos. That's not to say asbestos isn't somewhere else deep down in the filter, but as far as I'm concerned, the stuff at the top is just cotton wool that's been put there to stop any charcoal leaking out and going into your mask or the lungs, you know, as you're breathing through the mask with the filter on it. So there you go. As far as I'm aware, none of those had asbestos in the top as shown because that cotton wool layer burned properly. Beastoree was saying to me that this middle one, the actual Polish EO-14s, from quite late, see this one's dated the 80s, 86, they were still being used by the Polish army up until very recently, so hopefully they're safe. You know, it really depends on what you want from a filter and everything. Now, I might do a quick test of the 86 one because, you know, I think I'm less likely to inhale anything hazardous from that one. Remember what I've said before though, if you put a particulate-free pad in between the filter intake of the mask and where the filter is, you can actually block asbestos. That way I'm not going to do that to very quickly test the filter. But we'll see if I can smell any banana oil through it. I don't think I will because even though it's very old, those filters normally have such an insane amount of charcoal in them. What's quite interesting is that Poland went from that filter on the left to the filter in the middle. They're very similar but not quite the same. But things like East Germany went from the EO-14 style filters to the coffee can filters. I assume the coffee cans are probably meant to be a bit more robust or something, or have a bit more charcoal in, I don't know. I don't know what every nation in the Warsaw Pact did. I don't know what Czechoslovakia did. I think for the most part Czechoslovakia, for example, went completely to M10 masks with cheek filters. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, Russia and East Germany then went from these to the coffee can filters, but it seems communist Poland, for whatever reason, stuck with the EO-14s up until the end of the Cold War, and then used them as a sort of surplus filter for quite a while for training and stuff like that with their military afterwards, before they're obviously going to modern sort of FP5 type filters now. But yeah, interesting. So anyway, let's do a quick test with that EO-14 in the middle and see if it works. Okay, so because Israeli masks have a normalised thread, I should just be able to put this giant filter on here. Again, this isn't how you're obviously meant to use the filters. They go on a hose, as I've shown in videos before, but for this video this should be absolutely fine. Seems like it's pressurising. Okay. It's a bit impractical because it wants to break the seal on the mask from the weight of the filter, but no, I can't smell that. Yeah, so the filter works still, to a degree anyway. Can't say how effectively it would work, but now I can smell banana oil. So yeah, as said, how safe these filters are I can't completely tell you. I'd certainly think they were safer, at least the Polish EO-14s, than the coffee can filters used in other places, because we actually know that they have asbestos in from Soviet documents. I'd have assumed some models of these would have had asbestos in. However, as said, the asbestos would be in that very bottom particulate layer there. So if the filter's working properly, the asbestos can't get out. There's actually more danger of asbestos fibres falling out this end than there is being inhaled through the filter. But, yeah. These are cool collectibles anyway. Lots of people say to me, just get the mask off so I can talk more easily. Lots of people say to me, oh, you know, I've got this old filter, it's probably got asbestos in, how do I throw it away? Firstly, if it's got asbestos in, you can't legally throw it in your regular bin in most countries, because if you put it in the trash, you could expose people working in the waste industry to asbestos. So don't do that. If you really have to get rid of it, get it destroyed by an asbestos removal site. But if you're like me, what you actually want to do is just keep it. If you plug a filter like this up like that, there's no danger of asbestos leaking out. The metal on the filter is good solid metal. It is not going to crack open easily and let out contaminants. So do with it what you will. As I said, these are actually quite impressive filters for what they are, because filters like this are so chunky, they do actually, you know, the charcoal inside lasts absolutely ages just because there's so much charcoal in it compared to a conventional small filter. But again, at the same time, don't take unnecessary risks. I'd always advise using modern filters over old filters, just because we know they definitely are a lot safer, and they're more likely to work properly as well. But these are definitely interesting curios, so thanks to Beastoree for sending me these. In the link, I'll put a link below to his store. I don't know if he actually sells filters like this unless they come with other stuff, because he mostly sells FP5 and more safe filter variants. But these are kind of interesting curios, and I kind of collect filters a bit as well as collecting the gas masks themselves. So, you know, I have quite a lot of old asbestos filters that I'm completely happy to have in the house because I have them sealed up. But, you know, I wouldn't breathe through them. But for a lot of people, obviously, they wouldn't want to get those filters full stop. So there you go, that's a Polish EO-14 filter, an old Polish kind of EO-14 style filter, an East German EO-14 filter called the EO-24IX. So there we go. The interesting thing is, I think the East German one's a bit lighter maybe than the Polish one. I can't be bothered to get some scales now and weigh them, but the metals are different on them as well, slightly. But anyway, this is more like a varnish metal. I'm rambling now. So yeah, there you go. There will be a link below if you want to see some of Beastore's stuff on eBay. But yeah, thanks to him for sending me these filters. That's kind of interesting that not all EO-14 filters are actually the exact same thing. I wouldn't have even realised that. But yeah, thanks for watching.